research with us. Now we will have Mr. Badal Chatterjee.
Good afternoon. My name is Badal Chatterjee. I'm an assistant professor at Ramaiah College of Law. I'm also heading the Center for Disability Law and Policy at the same college. I'll be addressing the intersections between the climate change, persons with disabilities, and the state preparedness of policy analysis. Now, the intersection of climate change, disability, and state preparedness is a critical issue that requires immediate attention. Research indicates that individuals with disabilities often face heightened vulnerabilities during the climate-related disasters due to the barriers in mobility, access to information, and support services, necessitating comprehensive policy frameworks that account for these unique challenges in emergency preparedness and response strategies. Now, more than 1 billion people are there with disabilities, 80% of who live in low-income and middle-income countries. Now, don't get me wrong when I say that there are only 1 billion people who have disabilities. Disability is something which is eventually coming to our homes. Our grandparents, our parents, and eventually us. The world shuts the door on the people who are disabled. And anyways, then children with disability in low-income countries in 2020 birth cohort will encounter more than 5 times the lifetime exposure to extreme weather events under present emissions reductions pledges compared with the 1960 birth cohort, causing severe harms that result in intergeneration inequality. The World Health Organization has identified climate change as the single largest health threat today and estimates that the climate change will result in an additional 250,000 deaths annually between 2030 and 2050. Climate change is anticipated to increase the frequency and the severity of the extreme weather events, leading to a range of health consequences that may impact the person with disabilities. These health consequences include increased morbidity from respiratory diseases, heat-related illnesses, and exacerbation of existing chronic conditions which are compounded by physical and logistical barriers. Current research underscores the critical role of the state preparedness in effectively addressing the health-related impacts. Now, what is the role of the state preparedness here? Now, effective state preparedness is crucial to mitigate the adverse impacts of climate change on persons with disabilities. How far have the states fared so far? A 2022 analysis showed that 81% of the state parties to the Paris Agreement did not reference disability in their nationally determined contributions. Indeed, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change reported in 2022 that internationally almost no evidence showed the group's inclusion in climate adaptation and emphasized disability. States violate international legal obligations by failing to decrease carbon emissions in accordance with the Paris Agreement or by excluding people with disabilities from climate responses. Foundationally, the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability legally mandates the government-sponsored climate mitigation and adaptation measures and all international cooperation, including international development programs, to be inclusive of disability. I'll quickly come to the key policy considerations which I have come up with. The states should develop comprehensive emergency response plan that explicitly address the needs of the persons with disability. Take this hotel for example. If tomorrow, God forbid, an earthquake happens, we might rush out of the hotels, but what about a person in a wheelchair? He'll be the first one to be abandoned because even the lift services would stop. So again, what is the plan for that? We can't mandate this in the private sector organizations, but again, at least in the public sectors, yes. Then ensuring that early warning systems are accessible to individuals with disabilities, such as through text messages, visual alerts, and audio announcements. You have to make sure that there are enough sign language interpreters in the on the TV screen when something of this nature is being told. Then ensuring that the shelters and evacuation routes are accessible to individuals with disabilities, including providing ramps, elevators, and accessible bathrooms. Providing training and capacity building from emergency responders and healthcare providers on how to effectively support individuals with disabilities and during and after disasters. I have mentioned quite a few other recommendations for the policymakers towards an equitable and a disability inclusive climate resistance, and I've also mentioned few there on your screen. So I guess with this I'll conclude my presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.